I figured that we might start by talking a little bit more about me. So obviously I am Tess Sullivan. I grew up in Massachusetts. I've got, actually a pretty crazy story of my upbringing, I guess you'd say. It was by no means a typical upbringing. My brothers and I, when my older brother was 9 and I was 6 and my little brother was 2, we were finally taken in by my aunt and my uncle, who had 2 children of their own, who ended up raising us, because my parents were drug addicts and alcoholics and couldn't do it any longer. It was sort of, I guess, like that for even a lot of my childhood leading up to when I was actually on my 6th birthday that we ended up getting taken in by my aunt and my uncle. But we spent a lot of time with them over the years while my parents kind of messed up and then tried to get sober and then messed up again and tried to get sober. And then, of course, officially when I was 6, we got taken in. So I was predominantly raised by my aunt and my uncle, in the house with my 2 cousins. And then by junior high, my older cousin had her child, Kira, who you guys met in the episode last week. And so I grew up essentially in a bedroom with my cousin Kia and her baby. And yeah, we grew up in a really nice town. We were lucky to grow up in a nice town. But that also made things hard and complicated because, I don't know, just when you're a kid, it seems that everyone else's life is perfect and yours is the only one that isn't. I remember thinking when I was a kid too that, drugs were only a part of my life. And I sort of knew about them earlier than one probably should because of our circumstance and what we were going through. But I remember when I was a kid thinking, that I couldn't wait to grow up and have a life outside of drugs and not know people who were on drugs. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that, drugs are, actually affecting so many people that we love and care about, and that, by far and away, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. This just in, nobody's perfect. Even if you think they're perfect, they're not perfect. We are all dealing with our own issues and our own insecurities and things. And I'm glad to be here doing this by myself because I think it's a bridge that I needed to cross. I think that I can talk for an extended period of time, actually about quite interesting things. It's just about like doing it and like breaking that fear and surpassing it and winding up with something hopefully beautiful on the other side. But you have to be daring enough to start that. And so here I am. So yeah, let's see. What else can I say about, oh God, there's so many tales from my childhood. I just had this flashing of, so on the weekends we would see, when I was younger, mostly just my mom and then my dad at some point, maybe in junior high. I'm not sure exactly when he was like clean and well and back in our lives. I can't really remember the time frames. But so we would see my parents on the weekends, which didn't really allow me to have a normal life, per se. Like in junior high school, just when people were starting to become friendly with other people and start cliques and, you know, the cool kids and this and that, I was a cheerleader. So I had this, I think other people thought I was cool or popular, but of course I always felt like an outsider, just because I never wanted people to know the real me. I always felt like I had to keep them like at an arm's length. And if they knew that I was raised by my aunt and my uncle, that they would think I was weird or that I was different or wasn't the same as them. And yeah, I remember it being tough because when people started to forge friendships in junior high, I couldn't really hang out even if I was invited somewhere, because on Saturday I knew I was going to my mom's and on Sunday I knew that I was going out with my dad. but still I didn't open up to people and tell them that. And one of my best friends, Jill, who I'm still very good friends with to this day, she definitely received not the brunt of it, but an unfortunate side effect of my insecurities. I remember she was just simply trying to be my friend. But in 7th grade, I want to say, she called my house, which of course was my aunt and uncle's house. She called my house to ask me to play or hang out or come over. And when we got to school on Monday, she goes, Tess, I called your house, but I don't know, they said you were at your mom's. And I was so afraid of her outing me to everybody. And like the fear that came along with that, I was just like, oh no, this girl is trying to discover my true self. And like, then my whole plan will be foiled and everyone will think I'm a weird or stranger. I'm not like them. And I feel like the only thing in junior high is like, you just want to fit in. You just want to be the same as everyone, tragically. But it is the curse that is childhood. Just like fit in, get by. So instead of opening up to her, I just like shunned her and I shut her out. And then I ended up befriending this other girl in school who was like kind of mean and was always mean to Jill, because I thought, well, this will be easier to be mean to Jill than Jill try to be my friend and have her out me to everybody, which was a terrible way to deal with it. But of course I was 11, 12 years old and I didn't know how to deal with it. And that resulted in Jill's mom never liking me, understandably, and never wanting me to come over. When Jill and I finally moved past that, I remember constantly her always being like, yeah, my mom doesn't really like you. She doesn't want you to come over. And I'm like, well, I can understand why, because I was mean to you, but it was only my tool for protecting myself, which I think that we probably do in adulthood with lots of things as well. And I look forward to the point that I have health insurance and I can get therapy and deal with issues and shit from my childhood that I don't even really remember, quite honestly. I think that I went through a lot of traumatic things that sort of allowed me or enabled me to like shut down a lot of my childhood experiences. I don't remember a lot of my childhood. That said, I was lucky. I know that I was lucky to have my aunt and my uncle who did all that they could, despite their circumstances, because they didn't have money. They weren't people of means either, but they knew that it was better to keep my brothers and I together, than to have us separated or in foster care. And so they did what they could. And I am thankful for that. And I grew up on a kick-ass street. I still have many of my childhood friends from that street to this day. My best friend, Rachel, who will be on the podcast at some point. My best friend, Emily, who will also be on the podcast. Her grandmother, Virginia, was basically, a grandmother to me my whole entire life. And so I was very fortunate, but definitely went through some shit. Something else I never told anybody for years, and actually Savannah, my first guest, my best friend from college, she was the first person I openly, spoke about the fact that my parents had AIDS and had died of AIDS. And that was my reason being for really wanting to go to South Africa and to experience Africa, where sort of AIDS came from, or they talk about where it came from. And I remember Hanson, my favorite band. Well, we've gotten into that a little bit. We'll get into it more. They were the first people who actually made me feel a little bit more comfortable about speaking of AIDS and HIV. Because it does have such a stigma surrounding it. And I remember, my mom passed away when I was 15, so the beginning of my sophomore year in high school. My dad passed away the beginning of my sophomore year in college when I was 19. And for all that time and time after that, I never actually told people how they truly died. I would sort of just skim over it or like make up a little something or say that I didn't really know, because the truth is they both, of course, died of complications because of AIDS, because when you have HIV and AIDS, your immune system is compromised and therefore anything could take you out. Much like now, if you have a respiratory illness, coronavirus could easily take you out, more so than somebody who is well and healthy. And so both of them did die through complications because you don't have an immune system and you don't have your white blood cells, I believe, to fight back. And so anyways, I never told anyone about that. When my mom died, I just sort of either let them think what they thought. Maybe people thought it was cancer. And I always, I felt like there was a lot less stigma. Anyone in high school whose parents I know who had died, it always seemed easier and people felt bad if they had cancer. Whereas I felt if they knew that my parents died of AIDS or my mother died of AIDS, that there would be some sort of a, ooh, stay away from her. Does she have AIDS? So it took me a really long time to tell anyone about that. And then the first time I did was when I wrote my essay for Semester at Sea, speaking about how Hansen had allowed me to open up about this, about my parents having AIDS, because they went to, when I was in college, they went and did relief work in Africa, and on their tour that year, they donated money to not only vaccinations and things to help stop the transmittance from mothers to their children with HIV, but clean running water and food and supplies and medical necessities to these communities in Botswana and South Africa that were hurting. And they sort of destigmatized a lot of it for me and made me realize that I shouldn't be embarrassed of it. And it is something that until we talk about it and until people decide to open up and communicate about it, then it's always going to be something that is stigmatized and that's seen as dirty, and it isn't going to help people become healthy or know anything about it or avoid contracting it if we don't speak about it. So yeah, that's some shit. That's some motherfucking shit. But yeah, in terms of going along those lines, despite everything that I've ever been through and endured, honestly, I've always felt that I would not want to be anyone but myself. I'm thankful for all that I've been given. I think that what I've been through has made me the person that I am. I am resilient. I have an ability to laugh at things. I've always just appreciated who I am and where I come from. And I think despite all the bad shit, I've got like really good fucking genes. I mean, 7 genes, true religion. No, I mean like, look at these fucking genes, hon. My grandmother was a Vogue model. Okay, sweetie, it's not all bad. It's not all bad. It's all good. It's all fucking good.